So I have to tell you, this is a video I never thought I'd be making, but, well, here goes. And I hope you'll take the time to watch it, especially the gentlemen, because I'd love to hear your opinions on the topic and tell me if I'm right or wrong about it. So the other day I made this video where I talked about how women are reaching the point of full-blown panic over dating because they're starting to realize that men are done and walking away, not just from dating, relationships, and marriage, but walking away from them in society as a whole. I mean, it's become blatantly obvious to everyone that men no longer want to hang out with women, no longer want to be in the workplace with them, no longer want to be anywhere around them. There's no real benefit to be had except for one thing, which I'll get to in a moment. And who can blame those men with the rampant false allegations that women are making against men, not to mention the outright toxicity they display towards men on a daily basis. But be that as it may, that's not what the gist of this video is about. You see, I had one of my followers reach out to me after seeing that video and ask me why I don't make a video about, well, let's call it renting instead of buying. And no, it's not housing I'm talking about. And it started a great conversation between him and me about the whole rent versus buy dynamic, one that I have to say has got me thinking. He may have a point. You see, his argument is not only should you not buy, but you shouldn't even, let's call it, get into a long-term rental. You should never sign any kind of lease, but instead choose something like the equivalent of an Airbnb. One where you go to a provider, make the arrangements, pay for your night's lodging, and then once you're done, go on your merry way and never look back. Now I have to tell you that I've never been an advocate of, let's call it, purchasing goods and services in that manner, but as we talked, he really got me thinking. He even asked me, have you ever gone out with a woman, paid for dinner and whatever, and then gotten said goods and services in return? And my answer, of course, was, yes, I have. I mean, it's been a while, but back in the day, it was something I did all the time. To which he then asked me, how much did you spend doing that? Now, times are different now, but in today's dollars, it probably would come to somewhere between $100 and $200 each time. He then asked me, did you receive said goods and services each time? Was there a guaranteed return on your investment of time and money? To which I had no choice but to reply, of course not. Heck, most of the time, I didn't even have an expectation of receiving said goods and services. A hope maybe, but never an expectation. And this is where he really got me. He said, okay, bear with me now, but is it fair to say that the primary reason you spent that $200 and invested that time, maybe even the only reason you spent it, was in some cases to achieve the goal of receiving the goods and services? To which again, I had to admit, yeah, sometimes. And then he asked me, how is it any different than cutting out the middleman and using the very same $200 to simply acquire the specific goods and services you're looking for the time allotted without having to put in all that much effort? In fact, wouldn't it make more sense and have a better ROI to cut out that middleman and save yourself all those hours that you have to invest into, let's call them negotiations, to acquire said goods and services, and instead just search out a provider who offers the goods and services for a predetermined price and then simply pay the fee, much like an Airbnb? He said if you think about it, it's actually the more prudent move to go that route and save yourself a ton of time and in reality, a ton of money because, as he also pointed out, usually those negotiations take 2, 3, 4, or even 5 meetings over dinner to come to any fruition. Now I have to tell you, I would never go that route, nor do I think I ever could. But I also have to admit to myself, he does have a pretty valid point. And if there are those who are willing of their own accord to offer said goods and services, why shouldn't men at least consider that option? He even went on to say, essentially, they're operating a small business. And shouldn't we all be supporting small businesses? Which I have to admit literally made me laugh out loud. Again, this is not something I would do or even suggest doing. It's not in my DNA to even go that route or think about it, or to suggest that someone else does. If anything, I'd argue, and in fact have argued, against it, because I just believe it's the wrong thing to do. But I'll be damned if I don't have to admit he has me rethinking that. We have to at least acknowledge the logic in his argument. Which is why I want to ask you guys, what do you think? Is it better to negotiate over and over with a potential vendor in hopes of eventually coming to an agreement over the goods and services? One which I should also add, you may end up paying for years to come if, say, the combining of your goods and services with theirs leads to the creation of a new product. Or would it be better to simply just find a vendor with a set price, pay it, and then go about your business? I'm genuinely curious and would love to see what you all think.